Welcome back to the sacred city of Abidos. It is one of the oldest cities of ancient Egypt and is the 8th known of Upper Egypt. It is one of the most important and enigmatic archaeological sites. In part 1 of our expedition, we explored the L-shaped Temple of Seti I. We traveled through the 7 gates and discussed the esoteric meaning of the number 7. We investigated the controversial helicopter hieroglyphics and examined the Abidos King's List. In part 2 of our expedition, we will journey into the subterranean Osireion for our first time. The Osireion is closed to the public and requires a special permission access approved by the Ministry of Antiquities. During our visit, we will complete objectives for the ongoing Osireion VII Project Mission with the Abydos Project, under the direction of James Westerman and supervision of Dr. Ahmed Aziz of Sohan University. The results will be published after the first step of our research work is completed. For now, I will share limited and exclusive footage. Be sure to watch my husband Jeffrey Drum at the Land of Kemp's episode 111 for a data analysis overview of the Osireion VII Project Mission's released preliminary results, and episode 118 to learn about the function of the Osireion as a temple of initiation into the Osiris cult mysteries. Jeffrey guides you through the steps of the ancient Osireion initiatory ritual and discusses structured water. I'm Lex Levy, and this is Ancient Odyssey. Today, we're here in Abidos, at the temple attributed to Seti I, father to King Ramses II. It's Horus and Osiris. All right, let's go.
Usually hunting has a religious meaning. They are hunting the evil souls, the bad spirits.
I like how they draw this net and
Yes.
put the net around and they pull it and it closes like that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2
This image shows the Osirion's location in the temple complex. Its axis aligns with that of the temple and the enclosure wall pylon entrance. The entrance to the Osireion is via a tunnel from the north enclosure wall. This enters a large chamber on the main temple axis. A 90-degree turn to the east down a sloping passage leads to the main part of the Osireion. This plan by Edward Neville shows the Osireion is not orientated to the cardinal points, but for simplicity, authors have adapted local methods in relation to the Nile. As to the orientation of the complex, Petrie believed that it has a connection to the royal tombs of the earliest dynasties. In Felton's plan here, he provides a key to the type of stones used in the Osireion. The walls in Central Island are made of sandstone, and behind the walls, the structure is completed in limestone. The large pillars and their beams and the roofing stones are made of granite. Here are what remains of the Osireion, also called the cenotaph of Seti I. This impressive structure is a marvel of ancient Egyptian engineering and is a subterranean part of the temple complex built by Seti I. Water is being removed from the larger recess so that we may complete our objectives for the mission today. During Margaret Murray's 1902 excavations, she discovered a brick arch entrance under the northern enclosure wall and the two chambers at the southern end of the entrance corridor. She would also discover the start of the sloping passage. Due to her limited resources, this was as far as she could excavate. Major clearance would start in 1912 under Neville. A steam engine was utilized in the total clearance of the entrance corridor in 1925 by Frankfurt. As most of the passage was covered with more than 40 feet of wind-blown sand, its clearance was a vast expenditure and gamble.
The ritual of the death and resurrection of Osiris.
About 500 men, and 3.5 weeks later, the corridor was cleared. To his delight, the stone floor was intact, as were most of the walls, which were found to be covered in text. The west wall had the Book of the Gates, and on the east wall, the Book of what is in the underworld. Originally, the corridor and the chambers would have been roofed with stone beams, but they were robbed in antiquity. Thankfully, the Antiquities Department took advantage of this clearance and built a roof along its length to protect.
Okay. All right. The gate has officially been opened. Stone portion of the entrance corridor. I am very, very excited. It's not often that I get this pumped. I am very, very excited. It's not often that I get this pumped for on-site expeditions, but this is such a unique experience for me to be able to participate in this mission to investigate the source of the water underneath the temple. It's a big moment for me. You guys get to see it live on camera. And here, we've reached.
If you want to help support our expeditions and research, pick up some new badass Ancient Odysseys merch. The link is in the video description below. Fitted tees, stickers, shorts, and explorer packs are now available. Thank you all very much.
The first chamber. And as I mentioned in my video, as we initially reach this chamber, the instruction will begin.
According to Margaret Murray, the small southern chamber was sculptured with the 168th chapter of the Book of the Dead. This chapter, we are told, is devoted to the worship of the gods of the 12 caverns, or the divisions of the night, by the king. The Great Hall was found to have various scenes on its north, west, and southern walls. The east had been quarried away in antiquity.
This chamber does indeed have good acoustic properties. Hieroglyphic symbols, the meaning of which would be explained to the initiate prior to the death and resurrection ritual.
The book of Greek caves inside this book. Adam. Hello.
And the ancillary chamber, as anticipated, I propose that this is an acoustic amplification chamber. And that hypothesis was prior to me ever stepping foot inside of this structure. But I'm sure you can hear it on the camera that this chamber does indeed have good acoustic properties. And here, we'll get our first look.
Okay, with Mr. M. Enjoy. Enjoy.
Man, I gotta reiterate how much of an honor this is for me to be able to be involved in this project. As I explained in my previous episodes on the Osireion, several wells were drilled in and around this area to analyze the water below these structures. They've also drilled a well within the Osireion, and they've been testing the properties of the water. And here we have the first transverse chamber. So this part of the structure would have originally had a roof. You can see the remains of the roof here. Finally get some recognition within the legitimate archaeological community. I mean, it's a huge honor and blessing. And I was added to this team because of my recent research. So I just had chills kind of going up my back. Because you can imagine the experience of the initiates crossing into the Temple of Osiris. And if this little bridge wasn't here, the only way to access the central island is by first being fully immersed in the primordial waters surrounding the central island. So if you were an initiate being introduced into the cult of Osiris, you had to be first fully immersed in the water. And this is an ancient ritual known as lustration, purification by water. And only those who had gone through the ritual purification could then enter the sacred central island. And of course, this is why I also believe that there are very special properties to this water. And the location for the Osireion was selected intentionally to tap into this subterranean water source, which they have now proven is independent from the Nile River. So this temple is literally sitting right on top of an isolated body of water. And they built this temple so that it would tap directly into this very unique source of water that still fills the temple. There's water flowing in through the recess from this area. So we brought an endoscope, and we're going to do some camera. We also brought our LiDAR scanning equipment. So it's kind of a big reveal for the equipment that we've been integrating into our research. We've seen some previews of the LiDAR scans that we've been obtaining from various artifacts and structures.
This is a 3D model of the Osireion by Keith Hamilton, and it gives us an idea of the layout. We just traveled the entrance corridor. We examined the inscriptions of the Great Hall. This is the southern chamber. We walked down the sloping passage, past the first transversal hall, and crossed the purifying waters of the moat. This is a cross-section model by Keith Hamilton. There have been experiments to determine the true depth of the Osireion Central Island. In 2004, in an archaeological mission headed by Westerman, a probe was descended to a depth of 8.4 meters, but it did not reach the solid foundation layer. Then, in 2007, Westerman directed a seismic survey to determine the depth of the central island of the Osireion. The result was about 15 meters below its surface. Studies of the Westerman mission also showed that there are cavities and voids inside the central island, which purposes are unknown. These seismic studies showed that the Osireion rests in a deeper pit than previously thought, and that during construction, the pit would have extended into the floor plan of the Seti Temple to provide sufficient space for the work. For this reason, the foundation and lower levels of the Osireion must have been built before the Seti Temple. 3 interesting conclusions derived from a 1992 geological survey concerning the water at the Osireion are: 1. The source of the groundwater within the Osireion is not directly due to the Nile itself, but to an aquifer of fossil water, which drains from the east side of the western desert towards the Nile Valley. 2. The level of water within the aquifer is unpredictable. 3. A particularly high Nile level can impose itself on top of the local aquifer, thus bringing into play a second variable in the potential height of the groundwater within the Osireion. The existence of a possible conduit that might be connected to the Osireion and passing under the Seti Temple has yet to be proved and awaits further excavation. In 1992, the Seti I and Osireion Project attempted to test the existence of the conduit using ground-penetrating radar. However, the soil conditions they encountered made it impossible to detect anything below 2 or 3 meters in the area surveyed, which was well above the likely depth of the hypothesized conduit. It is thought that this conduit was designed to take water from the Osireion in order to maintain an even water level within the Osireion channel. This postulation fits well with the unpredictable water levels of the natural aquifer.
Absolutely amazing.
We are now standing on the island of the Central Hall. At the heart of the Osireion is the large recess where water is being removed for investigations. On the island of the Central Hall, we have 2 lines of 5 granite pillars, and between the spaces of the pillars, we have 6 cells on the north and south walls. On the east wall, we have 3 cells, and 2 cells on the west wall. There is a total of 17 cells. To learn the esoteric connection of this number, watch my husband's episode 118. In Westerman's 2012 expedition, he found a cylindrical drilling hole located in the northeastern part of the square pit in the floor of the central island, the smaller recess. There is a number of different hypotheses on the subject, but the exact purpose of this hole has not been determined yet. The direction of the axis of the hole is oriented to the true north.
يا أستاذ هاني يا أستاذ هاني تمام أنا اتكلمت معه.
There.
So I had anticipated that these were like inscribed on the stone, but it looks like they're just drawn on, like red ochre.
It looks like a pigment.
Yeah, pigment.
These are examples of what appear to be red ochre paint splatters. Let's take a closer look. What we have here is the work of a graffiti artist. Some have speculated that perhaps Pythagoras had made the pilgrimage and is responsible for this graffiti. This work was likely done when the interior of the Osireion was inundated with sand, so that the artist could reach these heights. There's actually multiple attempts at the Flower of Life symbol. Here we see 4 in this frame. I'm Lex Levy, and this is Ancient Odysseys. Today, I'm going to show you how to draw the Flower of Life using a compass.
This door here was originally completely sealed. You can see the limestone blocks here.
Another anomalous construction feature of the Osiron is that the second transversal hall originally was closed off without entrance. In modern times, a breach was made in the east wall's middle cell, giving access into the hall. However, in antiquity, the transverse hall must have been accessible, as it is decorated with a wonderful scene of the sky goddess Nut stretched out over the world. Within the Temple of Seti I, we find a room also without an entrance. It is called the Blind Room, and it features 2 pillars. There are some clues pointing to its use as a cistern. This image shows the orientation of the eastern transversal hall, the tunnel in its eastern wall that leads towards the main temple of Seti I, and the blind room. I believe these structures are connected, and it warrants a follow-up investigation. Here's a photo of us exploring in the eastern transverse hall. Jeffrey is pointing to the tunnel in the eastern wall. Let's have a closer look at this tunnel, believed to be connected to the blind room within the Temple of Seti I.
Here. It is broken through to access this transverse chamber on the backside. And this is a passage that was opened up that is believed to connect to the above ground portion of the Seti I temple. So this may be the back access into this isolated chamber within the Osiron.
There you go.
And we just finished and that certainly looks like it's just filled with rubble and debris back there that could be cleared out. Yeah, and then this area here, the brick, it's also patched. Certainly indicative of that there may be a passage leading into this back transverse chamber. You see that there are hieroglyphic inscriptions on the ceiling of this chamber. Here we have the goddess Nut. The celestial realm. believe that this goes back to the Seti I temple. So it goes back above ground and connects into the temple. So there may be a passageway, because this area of the Osireion is not accessible from the main central island. They broke through. All right, so in my previous episode on the Osireion, I proposed that these 17 cells are emblematic of the death and resurrection of Osiris occurring on the 17th day of the month. It does not appear that there were any original decorations inside of these chambers, and that they were intended to be undecorated. And you can see from this configuration here that these cells are not intended to be accessible. So these planks of wood are how you get over the water from the central island into the cells, but there's no way to get from the island to the cell, and this blocks off the access to this ledge that I'm standing on. So these cells were also intended to be an inaccessible part of the structure. So if it wasn't for all that algae and stuff down in there, this water would be super clear. I mean, you can see how crystal clear the water is, but all that green color is from all the algae and
But by the sun, it used to have a roof.
bacteria and all that other stuff in here. But it would have originally been very pristine source of water in here, very similar to what we saw in the Osiris shaft, where that water is crystal clear, very, very clean. And it's just, you know, centuries of a accumulation of algae and debris and growth in here that gives it the greenish color, not to mention all the debris that's down in there. Careful, babe. I was rounding one of those corners. I was like, I can just see myself falling into the muck. Going around these corners is, again, you can see that from here, the central entrance, there's no way to access this ledge. This whole piece is blocking the access to the cells.
And now I'm going to take some LiDAR measurements. It's made of sandstone on the roof, and the remaining portion is limestone. Probing a few areas of interest with the endoscope, and Jeffrey found some extremely interesting results. And you can see housings and tubular drill here. It appears that these once had a door or doors. hornet's nest here. I saw some huge ones flying around earlier. Some quarry marks. And these pillars, trilithons, made out of red granite. The rest, the interior is sandstone, and it's cased in limestone. Home for some birdies. Huge megalithic pieces of red granite. The structure once was roofed with colossal lintel pieces of red granite. It is now exposed to the sun, and that is why there's so much algae growth and debris.
This is a reconstruction of the Osireion by David O'Connor. Here, the top of the Osireion is depicted as an earthen mound.
You can see a lot of soil deposits.
Hey, babe.
Yeah?
Got 5 minutes.
does appear that there was a door or a closure here of some sort. That these cells may have been opened and then closed. Definitely seems to be some acoustic properties inside of these.
Who would have thought that at 10 meters underground, there would appear a structure such as this, surpassing in grandeur the most colossal Cyclopean edifice? What a strange country this Egypt is. We were beginning to believe that we had found all the great structures and that nothing more remained to be discovered. Who can say that this region does not conceal beneath the ground some majestic work of the most ancient Egyptians that may bring surprises as astonishing as those of Abidos? Edward Neville, 1914. This concludes our expedition to the Osireion and Abidos. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more epic adventures from ancient odysseys. Never stop exploring.
That's awesome.
If you want to help support our expeditions and research, pick up some new badass Ancient Odysseys merch. The link is in the video description below. Fitted tees, stickers, shorts, and explorer packs are now available. Also, please subscribe to our 2 new channels here on YouTube. Egyptian Trash Cats, where we document our saga in caring for the street cats of Egypt, and Egypt Eats, for all of our crazy culinary adventures. Thank you all very much.